I'm so excited for you to listen to this first episode of Season 7 of The Wild. Jaguars, jaguars, however you say it. I think you're going to enjoy it. I just wanted to hop in here first before it starts and say if you want more wild content, check out our Patreon. For just a few bucks a month, you'll find raw, extended interviews, story time with me, polls that you can participate in, and much more. The link to our Patreon is in the show notes of this episode. Happy listening.
Well, in 1996, I saw the first jaguar I've ever seen in my life.
Warner Glenn is what I'd call a real cowboy. His face is almost as leathery as his boots. Warner has spent his entire 8 decades of life working his family ranch along the Arizona-Mexico border.
I was 8 years old when I went on the first hunt with my dad.
Warner's also a mountain lion hunter. On that day, in 1996, he was out on a hunt about 10 miles from the Mexican border. His hound dogs were running alongside his horse, nose to the ground, when suddenly the dogs all took off running. Here he is, being interviewed a few years ago on local TV.
I was trotting along that trail trying to catch up with them, and I looked down and I could see this big cat track.
A mountain lion track, just what the posse had been looking for. So Warner followed his hounds up a steep climb to the top of a mountain bluff, and he sees them a short distance away. They've cornered an animal, definitely a big cat, but it didn't look like a mountain lion.
Boy, I said to myself, God almighty, that's a jaguar.
Black rosette spots on a yellow coat, a big blocky head.
Boy, of course, I wanted to get a picture of that thing, so I snuck back up to my mule and I got the camera out of my saddle horn pouch.
Even a veteran hunter like Warner knew to grab his camera instead of his rifle. He snapped his picture. The cat was on top of a huge orange rock, glaring right at him. But what he didn't know was he had just captured the first photograph of a jaguar in the United States of America, right here in the desert Southwest.
When I looked at him, he looked like he had fire in his eyes. He was locked on to me. He knew I was the source of the trouble, I think.
For a big cat that usually makes you think of the jungle, this one seemed out of place here in the desert, a place that can soar to 120 degrees in summer. But the fact is, back in history, jaguars always called the southern states home until the last ones here were killed off over half a century ago. Warner's photograph was the first evidence that they could possibly make it back. The story of Warner's fire-in-the-eyes moment with that jaguar got me curious and brought me to where it happened. And just what will it take for jaguars to claim Arizona as their home again?
Knock, knock, knock.
Hey, morning.
Hey, good morning.
How's it going?
Ready to go explore the borderlands?
Definitely. Ready to go and find some jaguars. It's 6 a.m. and my producer Matt Martin and I just woke up in an old hotel in the small border town of Douglas, in the southeast corner of Arizona. It's just 50 miles from Warner's 1996 cat. I stuff a few final things into my pack: binoculars, shades, sunscreen, water, and passport, and I head down a giant marble staircase to an opulent-looking lobby built in the heyday of the early 1900s. Feels like stepping into another time. 2 wildlife biologists will be escorting us into an area known as the Borderlands, the wild area along the US-Mexican border, and home to an occasional jaguar. Ganesh?
Hey.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Morgan, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Mucho gusto. Dr. Ganesh Marin is a Mexican biologist, and today he'll be taking me into Mexico to experience the habitat there, the jumping-off place for any jaguar coming into the USA.
Everything is connected, and I think that's part essential about understanding jaguars in this part of the region, that they're just a tiny fraction of the diversity here. So jaguar is kind of a healthy sign of a healthy landscape.
Our second guide is also a wildlife biologist, American Miles Traphagen. Morning, Miles. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Miles will be escorting my producer Matt here on the US side of the border to find out what it'll take for jaguars to get here from Mexico and what might get in their way.
My biggest concern for walling off the borderlands is that we're going to have entire communities of animals who are resident here who are going to suffer from this.
These borderlands bring together an unusual mix of animal species. It's a region where northern species like bears and wolves and deer meet southern ones like ocelots and jaguars, like a multicultural mix of animal neighbors. But how do you make a border secure and allow wildlife to do what they've always done, move back and forth across an international border freely? At the heart of this question is the jaguar, the biggest wild cat in the Americas, traversing the deserts and mountains. So I'm here to find out what they need to expand their range permanently from Mexico into the USA, and what might be getting in the way, including the 30-foot steel border wall that now snakes across the mountains between the two. From KUOW in Seattle and Chris Morgan Wildlife, welcome to the wild. Okay, so we're getting close here. So I'm not going to say very much. I'll leave the talking to you. Less than a mile down the road after meeting Ganesh at the hotel, and we're about to drive across the border into Mexico. Ganesh is sitting next to me in the driver's seat of his pickup truck. Outside our window are 3 US Border Patrol agents dressed in green and carrying weapons. They stare at us, nod their heads, and wave us through to exit the USA. Next, into Mexico.
So the Mexican army is gonna be checking all the cars that they thought they could have something, and because we have a pickup, they probably will stop us, but it's pretty standard.
We slowly approach a line of Mexican border agents.
Hola, buenos días. No?
They don't even ask for our passports, but they are curious about the Mexican with a gringo and our truck.
¿Qué traen las mochilas, caballero?
Cámaras y equipo, somos biólogos.
Muy bien.
They stop us to check out Ganesh's box of wildlife cameras and ask him a bunch of questions.
Que si le molesta que la abra.
No.
Crossing this border isn't easy. You can't take it for granted. Thankfully, after a few minutes of rifling through our belongings, they let us through.
Just we cross this little port. We are right now in Mexico.
All right. Bienvenidos a Mexico.
Yeah.
I breathe a sigh of relief. This is the town of Agua Prieta and my entrance into the fascinating world of the borderlands. Ganesh is a Mexican citizen. He recently got his PhD from the University of Arizona on how wild animals like jaguars move through these borderlands and how border walls and highways might make it difficult.
To be honest, as a biologist, when I studied in central Mexico, I didn't know that the jaguars were here. So this is, I will say, like an edgy story.
Yes.
Well,
I'm eager to learn all I can from Ganesh about this edgy story. But first breakfast.
First breakfast.
We pull into a colourful little Mexican restaurant, order up some fried eggs, rice and beans, and a strong black coffee.
How many eggs do you want?
Dos, por favor.
As we eat, I can already tell that the research Ganesh has done has turned into a bit of a crusade for the jaguars and other wildlife here. And he explains that Mexico is key.
So I think that's good news for the United States and for the area to having back naturally an iconic species.
Jaguars, if they're going to make it in the United States, they need the help of Mexico, right? You know,
Yeah,
conservationists
Right now is the only way, and I think it's because they're knocking the door, basically, right now into the United States.
Back on the road, we head out of Agua Prieta, due east. Ganesh wants to take me to where these jaguars are knocking on that door, in the Sierra Madre mountain range. I'm trying to get a handle on everything I'm seeing. So those mountains over there, that's the US?
Those ones over there that you're seeing back there is the Chiricahuas.
Okay, so that's in Arizona.
And this is tiny mountains compared to the things that we're going to see when we reach the Sierra Madre.
I see. Scanning the horizon left to right, I can see several mountains rising up from the hot desert, crossing from Mexico into the USA. They're called Sky Islands, and they can reach 6,000 feet high, so they're cooler and wetter than the desert, which means they have different plants. Plants that attract herbivores, that are prey for jaguars and other carnivores.
And that's why all the animals, all the jaguars, all the bears, all the ocelots are there.
I see.
Because that's the last connection to the big mountains that goes forward into the south.
I see. The nearest breeding population of jaguars is about 100 miles south of here, deeper into Mexico. And the cats seen up here in the borderlands most likely came from there. Doesn't matter if you're a jaguar or a squirrel. When the density of your population gets too high, you need to leave, disperse. Imagine living in a 2-bedroom apartment with your parents and your entire family, siblings, cousins. Fridge is always empty. No one to mate with outside your immediate family. Might be time to find your own place. And if you're a jaguar, this dispersal is essential for genetic diversity. The Sky Islands are how you do this. They're like a series of stepping stones of rich habitat, all lined up for an animal like a jaguar that's trying to expand its range north. So they're a vital ecological corridor full of food and safe cover. Ganesh wants to show me where he's been monitoring the cats moving north from central Mexico, using those Sky Islands up to the doorstep of the United States. We're driving down this rough road now, down through, feels like, is it a bit of a water drainage here, Ganesh?
Yeah, this used to be a wetland.
It used to be a wetland.
That's why this is the first property from Cuenca Los Ojos.
Oh, I see.
And from there to the end of those mountains, to Chihuahua, it's all managed by Cuenca Los Ojos.
Cuenca Los Ojos is a huge, privately protected area right next to the border of Mexico. The non-profit has bought the land, 120,000 acres, because it's such perfect wildlife habitat for the adventurous few jaguars that occasionally make it here from the south.
So we're just to drop into the Cajon Bonito watershed, that it's like the super highway for all the animals, because there is water all the year.
He knows this because he's covered the area with a carefully mapped out grid of wildlife cameras for several years. It's only 8 a.m, but even here, higher up, things are already starting to get warm. Yeah, you get used to parking in the shade around here, I suppose.
Yeah, I know the good spots.
Cajon Bonito has the rugged Sky Islands the jaguars like, but it also has this other key factor. This is starting to feel a little bit more like jaguar country, and I see what Ganesh means. It's all about the water. It's all about the water. It doesn't feel like the desert anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like I am in a different place. But you're easily reminded as far as you get a few meters away from the stream, the desert starts again.
Jaguars love to hunt around water. It's where so much of the prey is. Jaguars are powerful swimmers, and they'll eat fish and turtles as well as deer and rodents. Sometimes, in more tropical areas like Costa Rica, they even eat crocodiles. Creeksides are always a happy hunting ground. Plus, they have vegetation to hide in and ambush prey.
It's the shade, it's the water. You can tell why jaguars love this area too.
It's that secrecy that makes jaguars hard to study, and the fact that they can have a home range of 100 square miles. So Ganesh has learned a lot about them by using his cameras to follow the movements and habitat use of black bears. Because they like the same kind of habitat as jaguars. Black bears are way more common than jaguars, so it's easier to find and monitor them. And by learning about what the bears need, Ganesh can understand what the very rare jaguars need too. He's had plenty of bears on his cameras here at Cajon Bonito. But in the winter of 2021, Ganesh came here and had a day he will never forget.
I know how elusive they are, how rare they were. We documented one blurry photo, and then things went crazy.
One blurry photo of a jaguar. It was big news. Jaguars are so rare here that even getting one on an unmanned, remotely triggered camera only happens every few years.
I don't feel that jaguars are supposed to be here, but they are. And I found one. And it was just excitement, like a content excitement that I was sharing with the other biologists that she was with me. And we were both, like, afterwards, just jumping of happiness, just over there in the stream.
The border is only 8 miles north of here, so when Ganesh says that jaguars aren't supposed to be here, he means it is way closer to the USA than almost any jaguar gets. A discovery so rare that National Geographic published his images in their magazine. The initial excitement over the photo died down, but not for Ganesh. He became obsessed with finding out more. If there was one jaguar, maybe there were others. He covered hundreds of miles on foot, setting and checking cameras. He set them to capture video, hoping that clips would help him learn about cat behavior. 2 years later, Ganesh found what he'd been hoping for. He pulls out his laptop with a smile on his face and says he wants to show me. Right, what are we seeing here? Wow, that is the sound of the wild. 2 beautiful adult jaguars on the same video clip, and one of them's making this deep, groaning sound. At first, he thought they might be young sibling males hanging out together.
But then I saw this video, and I can see the testicles, and in this and in another videos, so we suspect that this is a female.
You cannot see the testicles on
this one, and we're almost sure that this is a female. So hopefully they reproduce and somewhere.
So you think this is a female reproduction call?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Do you know that it is? Do they do that usually?
I sent this video to some experts in Brazil, in Mexico, and everyone told me, like, it's a female.
Yeah, you've pieced the puzzle together. It's like detective work to figure out what the family unit might be.
And that's my favorite part of being an ecologist. It's not going and making models. It's just like gathering evidence and making the puzzles.
So far, researchers have confirmed 5 jaguars living in the Mexican borderlands. But it's this evidence of a possible breeding pair that could be a total game changer for the species this close to the USA.
It's a mystical animal. It's a mythical animal, and they're beautiful. So I was happy to see them, especially here in the desert.
It really is impressive how this species can sneak its way along the mountaintops, jumping from one sky island to the next to make it to the desert southwest. But what happens when humans put something in the way? After the break, I get up close and personal with a juggernaut that could stop these jaguars in their tracks. The border wall. Hey wild listeners, I hope you're enjoying this first episode of Season 7. If you want more wild content, you can check out our Patreon. I want to take a quick second here to thank some of our patrons. So a shout out to Suzanne P, Tara J, Jim D, Raphael J, Joan A, Alan L, and Kari. This is fun. I can't wait to do more of this. You guys were among the first to sign up on Patreon back in June of 2021. So thank you. And thank you to all of our patrons for showing your support and for enjoying what we have to offer. And if you want to join, the link is in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to the show. So some big mountains ahead and you can see the wall. What have we got in front of us here, Ganesh?
Yeah, what we can see is the new section of the border wall that was built during 2020 and 2021.
In March of 2019, President Trump announced a $15 billion plan to wall off the entire 2,000-mile length of the Mexican border. Before that, the only walls that existed along the border were in urban human areas like San Diego in California and El Paso in Texas. Quite the construction.
It's really impressive when you see it in the first time.
This really brings it into sharp reality like nothing else. It's 30 feet tall, with about 4 inches between each pillar, sunk deep into concrete. We get out and slowly approach on foot. Now I'm literally steps away from this huge wall, this massive human-made
It's
barrier that cuts across this landscape.
Yeah, it feels massive, it feels imponent. In the past, you were in the middle of the mountains. So, it feels like this doesn't belong, of course, here.
Mm-hmm.
Such a big line, a big scar in the landscape.
Ganesh was here as they were building the wall, so he's seen the before and after. That big scar that he talks about has not only changed the physical landscape, but also how animals can use this terrain. Whether they're trying to move north like jaguars, or south, like the story of a wolf that became well known here. It was a Mexican grey wolf that was born in captivity in the USA and released into the wild there in 2020. His name was Mr. Goodbar. His GPS collar revealed him pacing right along the border wall for 23 miles, trying to get south in search of a territory and a mate. But he never found a way to cross, so he turned around and headed back north, where he was shot.
The impact of the border wall and how many species are crossing. And the answer is not that many. The easy answer is it's not enough.
The good news is that Mr. Goodbar survived the shooting, although minus one leg. And in the process, he did somehow find a mate. A three-legged war hero finds love. But they may never find a new territory to raise pups if they can't freely cross the US-Mexico border like their species was always able to do.
Hey, Ganesh.
Hey, Miles. We saw you crossing, but we're in the one that is a little bit more to the west.
While we're standing at the border wall in Mexico, Ganesh calls Miles Traphagen, who's with my producer Matt. We haven't seen them since we all left the hotel this morning, so we want to check in with them, right at the wall in this key spot.
For the west, we are right by Black Draw now. Are you west?
The cell signal is weak and dropping calls, so we wait for 20 minutes in the hot sun until we hear the sound of tyres in the gravel on the US side of the border. It's them. Miles and Matt. They jump out and approach the thick steel struts of the wall. Ganesh and I are on the other side. Well, this is pretty surreal. How is the weather over in the United States?
That's nice.
Is it?
Good.
It's hard to know where to start when you start sort of getting your head around what's going on here. So Matt and Miles are standing about 3 or 4 feet the other side of the border, just the other side of the wall, but literally, shake my hand, Miles.
Hey, Chris.
I'm shaking hands with Miles, and he's standing firmly in the USA, and we're standing firmly in Mexico. And Ganesh, are you usually over there very much, like where Miles is standing on the other side of the border?
No, actually, I've been avoiding that area a lot.
Why?
I always feel a little bit nervous with the border patrol. I am brown skin, my accent is very thick, I am Mexican, so I don't want to push any string.
I think about that wolf, or a jaguar. There's a 4-inch gap between each vertical strut of the wall that's wide enough for a handshake, but definitely not wide enough for most animals to get through. Miles crouches down in the dust, the other side of the wall, to show me a small opening cut between 2 of the struts, about the size of a large dinner plate, to let small species through. They call it a doggy door.
Oh, so that's the doggy door.
Yeah, this is the doggy door. It's officially known as a small wildlife passage.
It took me a minute to find it, even with Miles pointing to it. It looks wide enough for a badger or a coati to get through. Researcher cameras even captured a female mountain lion and her kittens using it once. But as well as being very small, there aren't many of these doggy doors.
Problem is that we only have 11 in a 2.5 mile stretch here, and then there's not another one until you get to the San Pedro River, which is 50 miles away from here.
You have to imagine how many tries they have to make in other parts and they're just failing.
So how would a jaguar wouldn't get through there, right? There's no way.
There is no way a jaguar could get through there. This is affecting the community, not just here in the line, not just the ones that are moving, but the whole suite of species is changing because of the presence of this border wall.
It's deeply inspiring being with these 2 ecologists, one Mexican, one American. They couldn't be working more closely together to find solutions from each of their respective countries. The border wall won't cause jaguar extinction, but it might here, on the edge of their range in the borderlands. And it's definitely preventing them from expanding north into places they used to roam. So the doggy doors won't work for a jaguar, but Miles has worked against the odds to make sure bigger animal crossings are available. Miles is the Borderlands Program Coordinator for a conservation group called Wildlands Network. When he first started working here in 2017, the border was mostly just a barbed wire fence, a barrier that a lot of animals, jaguars included, could easily pass through. But that day in 2019, news of the Trump administration wall construction plans reached him.
There were no cell towers in this area, so I hadn't heard the news, and once I finally hit reception, I had about 30 emails saying, hey, they've announced 11 border wall projects.
When construction of the new section of wall began, Miles had a front row seat to all the bulldozers and other heavy machinery.
I saw boulders tumbling down the mountain and destroying large oak trees, and it appeared in slow motion because it was so big, everything that they were blowing up. And I had a lot of nights where I was waking up 2-3 in the morning with just, post-traumatic stress disorder. My wife would come in and say, is everything okay? Did somebody die? I'm like, no, but something is being destroyed and killed.
"19 states sued the federal government over the construction of the border wall. Miles was asked to be an expert witness in the case. He testified about the impact the structure would have on wild animals and how critical it is for them to get through the wall. The legal battle dragged on until Joe Biden became president. His administration eventually settled the lawsuit.
One day in 2023, the lawyer for the Department of Justice said, okay, the government agrees to place X number of large wildlife openings to be left open for a certain number of years.
Floodgates had already been built into the wall. These are to help with heavy water flows in the monsoon season. Now, thanks to the lawsuit, they would be left open full-time for wildlife. And they were big enough for a jaguar. It was a major win.
What was your reaction when you found out that you were going to get these openings?
Well, I just got my first pair of reading glasses about a year and a half ago, and I put them on just to hide the tears in my eyes of joy. So, yeah, true story.
Yeah, it sounds like it was an emotional moment for you.
It was, yeah. It was a lot of negotiation, a lot of mapping work. It was a long road to get there.
When we get back from the break, we see one of those hard-won wildlife openings and some evidence of who's using them that even surprises Miles. Matt and Miles are on a dirt road in the shadow of the border wall in the US, about 20 miles east of Douglas, heading to check on one of the wildlife openings Miles fought hard for. They pull up to a Border Patrol agent sitting in his truck. Miles rolls down his window and leans his head out.
Hey. Morning. Morning, sir. So I just want to let you know I'll be along the line here in the next couple hours. Okay. We've got a trail camera project with the Refuge and BLM. Okay. Good deal. Let them know. That'd be awesome. Okay. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Okay. Very friendly interaction.
Yeah.
A few miles further on, they stop at the edge of a sandy slope that heads down to the wall.
So we're standing next to one of the floodgates, and this is at the top of the Paria Mountains. And this gate is about, I think it's 9 feet tall and 5 feet wide.
A big, open steel door with 3 strands of barbed wire strung across it. They walk down the steep drainage and stand at the opening, peering into Mexico. It's a wild spot. Miles has set up carefully hidden remote wildlife cameras at each of these new openings to keep a detailed record of which wildlife species are moving through them.
Can you see the camera?
No.
Miles scrambles up a short pile of rocks and pulls out a camo-coloured box with a small lens sticking out.
Oh. Yeah, that's hard to spot.
Yeah. We've had very good success with cameras hidden in terrain, like in rocks and bushes and things like that. As soon as you put a trail camera on a tree, it just stands out like a sore thumb. Like, those are the ones that we lose, you know?
Yeah.
Miles takes the memory card out of the camera and pulls out his laptop. There are over 300 new video files since he last checked a month ago. He clicks on one of the videos.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's a mountain lion.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's
Just randomly clicked on a mountain lion video.
For checking this camera here out of 336, and we get a mountain lion going through there. That's incredible.
Miles is clearly happy. A big cat like a mountain lion is a very good result. This cat found the opening and is actually using it to move between Mexico and the US. A hope for connectivity for sure. They click through more videos. A bird, a bobcat, another bird, then something Miles wasn't expecting.
There's a person.
Oh.
So returning south.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you get many humans?
Not many. This is the first time I've ever had one on this camera.
Miles pieces it together. The next clip is even more startling. A whole group of people, about 20 of them, single file in the darkness, carefully stepping through the open gate into the US. The timestamp says 10:45 p.m. They're following someone smuggling them across the border.
I'll see. Look at his hand motion.
Oh, he's like pointing them where to go.
Okay, here's kind of what I was suspecting is that there's people that they guided through. See, they're on their way. They've got backpacks, so they're headed north.
Yeah.
And that guy is what they would call the coyote who's guiding them.
And then that was the coyote going back.
Going back. Mm-hmm.
They all take off together into the desert. Then, only 30 minutes after the smuggler returns to Mexico, something else pops up on the screen.
Oh, they got a radio too.
Border agent?
Uh-huh.
2 American Border Patrol agents. You can see them tracking footprints in the dust.
Wow, this is the most human activity I've ever seen on a camera.
In the 5 years that Miles's cameras have been on this site, this is only the 3rd time he's seen humans using the wildlife gates.
When you see someone on a trail camera like that, like, how do you try to think about it or talk about that aspect of being on the border?
Well, migration is a phenomenon of nature. It is essential. It's been happening since the first bowl of primordial soup was served. Every single species on the planet, from the protists to the humans and everything in between, has migrated at some point.
We all need a home territory to nourish us and a way to make a living. This is nothing new. Humans and wildlife have been migrating to find a better home since the beginning of time. What we are seeing here are social and natural forces squeezing both man and beast through the same small gate.
Everybody's moving north. They're trying to get to greener pastures, cooler climates, places where there's more resources, and also places where they can be safe.
But there might be some people listening to this that are saying, but we need security. We can't have all these people and animals coming up here. What do you say to the people that are like, no, we need this?
We see people on these cameras, but if you look at how many days they've been out here, these cameras, in the whole scheme of things, how many did we see? All I'm seeing is that there's really no effort being made to actually solve the problem. Cat and mouse game.
The situation here is complex. So many different political and natural forces shape the lives of any who are driven to pass through the borderlands. As soon as he was re-elected, President Trump declared border security a national emergency. And in June of 2025, the Department of Homeland Security announced they would expedite approval to begin new construction on the wall, allowing the government to skip laws that protect nature and the environment, including these critical Sky Island habitats. At the end of September 2025, construction began on 27 miles of new border wall through the San Rafael Valley. This is a biodiversity hotspot in the heart of the Sky Island region.
By walling off the San Rafael Valley and other places in Arizona, potentially the entire state and the entire state of New Mexico, we are altering the evolutionary history of North America. And nobody has the right to do that. So this wall needs to come down because it's a crime against nature, it's a crime against the universe.
Back in Mexico, the day is coming to an end. We open a locked gate. Before we head back into the United States, Ganesh wants me to see one more thing. So we're pulled off onto another bumpy gravel road here off the highway, and I can see the wall a couple of miles away, snaking across the hills and ridges, dipping out of sight, then rising up over the next mountain. This is where New Mexico, Arizona, and northern Mexico all come together on a sky island. And it's where Trump's wall construction was stopped in its tracks by Biden. Ganesh wants to show me this so I can see what would be lost if construction begins again. But it's getting late in the day, and I can tell he doesn't want to be here long.
The sun is setting, so I think we should go there and just get out quick. I don't want to be there when it's dark, okay?
Okay. What happens after dark?
Well, we increase the probability of encounter some human movements, and it's better not to be there.
Okay. The idea of running into human smugglers definitely puts me on edge.
So let's go.
We walk along the wall, across some big boulders, through dry grasses and creosote bushes. Just the kind of isolated place a jaguar might want to cross. Climbing up a short, steep section here, past the concrete feet of the big wall. I scramble up the last little incline and join Ganesh on a big boulder. And there it is. Oh, no way. The 30-foot-high steel wall climbs up this last rise too, and then just stops. The wall just ends.
They just blasted half of the mountain, but they were not able to even to complete that.
So it literally just stops there about 100 yards from us.
Yeah,
50
exactly.
yards maybe. And then up over that next ridge there is no wall, but that ditch is the border.
Yeah.
After spending the entire day in the shadow of this 30-foot wall, it seems bizarre that right in front of me it just ends. It makes the entire thing suddenly feel so fickle, so human, all dependent on a political stroke of the pen. Where the wall ends, right here, wildlife is still free to cross the border. It's wide open for them. The ecosystem is whole. But President Trump could restart construction at this spot at any time. What do you think looking at this? What comes to your mind?
I mean, it's a reminder of how harmful could be this distinction between us and the others. And that's affecting the politics between Mexicans and Americans, but also dividing the understanding with us humans and the other species that are being affected by this. And they're paying the highest implications for that.
As I look along the wall, its long striped shadows covering the rocks in the setting sun, I think about the breeding pair of jaguars Ganesh found, and something he told me at breakfast, that jaguars are knocking at the door of the United States. But are they going to be able to get in? Those larger wildlife gates remain open for now, but there's no guarantee that they'll stay open. But despite all of these unknowns, Ganesh hasn't given up hope.
There is a lot to fight for, and there is a lot of things happening, good things in the US, good things in Mexico, and fighting for both sides, for both bears, for both jaguars, in both sides. I think it's worthy. It's worthy to give a fight for this, and finding ways to create bridges instead of walls.
Bridges instead of walls. It's time for us to head back across the border into the USA. And as I'm walking back to the truck, Warner Glenn, the cowboy, pops into my mind. I can picture him riding horseback through these mountains, scanning the horizon, thinking about the fire in the eyes of that first jaguar he saw nearly 3 decades ago, before the walls, before the lines hardened. All I can do is hope that in 30 more years, that fire will be burning brighter than ever, as these mysterious borderland cats somehow wind across the desert mountains and find their way home. I want to give a special thanks to the crew at Cuenca Los Ojos, Valerie Gordon, Jorge Chacon, and Anis Blanco. This episode wouldn't have happened without their hospitality and hard work. If you'd like to support the Nature Preserve, you can learn more by clicking the link in our show notes. Thanks for listening to The Wild. If you like what you hear, share it. Tell a friend about the podcast or leave us a rating and review. It helps. And don't miss an episode. Subscribe. It's free and easy. And as always, there are some great photographs and clips from our travels on Instagram at Chris Morgan Wildlife. The Wild is a production of KUOW in Seattle and Chris Morgan Wildlife, with support from Wildlife Media. Matt Martin produced this episode. Jim Gates is our editor. Writing for this episode by Christopher Preston. Fact-checking by April Craig. Our theme music is by Michael Parker. Additional music from MusicBed and Blue Dot Sessions. The Wild is hosted, produced and written by me, Chris Morgan. A very special thank you for their kind financial support to Jill and Scott Walker, Rose Letwin, Ellen Ferguson, the Isdell family, Anna Kimball, Barbara Stallman, John Taylor, Paul Lister, Bob Yellowlease and John and Julie Hanson. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and nature so that nature can take care of you like she does every day.